Well, first up this evening is presenter coach Rich Mulholland. He is the owner of an agency that helps people build presentations. And he is with us on the line this evening from Johannesburg on a phenomenon that I wasn't aware of, Rich Mulholland, but you will be. And it is a presenter coach, a digital presenter coach built into the program that everyone uses to build their presentations, which is called PowerPoint. Is it any good, is the question, because most people, frankly, are pretty bad at presenting. Does this help?
Bruce, it really does help. It's actually a phenomenal tool, and we're quite gung-ho on it. We actually advise it to people that are working on a big presentation. It's not without its flaws, though. Like, it does some silly things. It's a lot of fun. It definitely makes you want to swear at it a few times to see it catch you, because it picks up on all of those things. But it's a great tool for monitoring your basic presentation flow and not making some of the common mistakes. And it will pick up on the ums and ahs when you don't.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because people are generally pretty poor at presenting, and then they get themselves a PowerPoint presentation because somebody said to them, you know what you need? You need some slides to act as your script so that when you go through, it'll help you so that you don't forget to say things. And invariably what happens is you get somebody who's petrified. They can barely hold the clicker when old-fashioned conference venues with clickers. They're so busy shivering and shaking that they end up focusing completely on their slides and starting to read reams of data and lines of sentences and all kinds of things out verbatim. And it's one of the biggest mistakes, I think, that people make in presentations. So you go to a presentation, somebody says, well, I know you can't see my slide, but on the third line, bottom left, it's actually a 3, not an 8. And I just need to explain to you how I got to, and you've fallen asleep long before. And that's what's called death by PowerPoint, right?
Right now, but what I will say about death by PowerPoint is blaming PowerPoint for a bad presentation is like blaming a pan for a bad meal. PowerPoint isn't doing anything wrong. It's a perfectly good tool, minding its own business, dealing with the rubbish that you put into it. Now, this is a case, Bruce, for me, of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. The PowerPoint coach will tell you not to read your slides, but it's kind of acting as the ambulance down in the valley instead of the fence at the top of the cliff. And in truth, for me, you should read your slide, provided you've got just the right amount of content on it. So in one of your slides in your, say, your upside of down keynote, if you were to deliver one of those slides and it had a big pull quote on from somebody you chatted to, you want to read that quote to your audience because, you don't want them to have to do something while you're doing something else, just to get across that point, and then you're going to move on from there. This presenter coach in PowerPoint, which, by the way, you can find on PowerPoint for Web or PowerPoint for Android. You can't find it in your traditional PowerPoint tool, but on PowerPoint for Web, it is in the slideshow tab. But it will try and make you not read your slides instead of trying to get you to make better slides. Again, it's not perfect, but it's certainly worth using. It will improve the average presenter. It'll improve a great presenter.
It's so interesting. I mean, the fact that you used it, and I'm sure you did it from a point of view of experience because you wanted to see what it was like. And, I mean, you're a fruity presenter. You like to use colourful language. You like to use challenging language. You like to use swear words on stage. It's part of your shtick. You must have nearly broken the system.
So I give myself a limit. Like I'll generally have a 1 F-bomb, and I allow myself. I think even colorful words are only valuable if they're used as a very, very big exclamation point. They get boring if you use them too often. So I do try to hold back. But when I was testing the system, I would try slip in lesser known words just to see how it would work. And for sure, it catches all of those. Once you get out of the novelty of that, though, the main thing that it will help you with is the timing and pace of your narrative. So it tells you if you're monotone. It tells you about the speed that you're speaking at. It tells you if you're raising your pitch or you're deepening your voice or how you're communicating. And this is language that your audience needs, because this is the soundtrack to your presentation, is your voice tonal changes. And it does a really good job of making you aware of how monotone you are. So you can take out some of the profanity filters, and you can also, by the way, what's cool is you can turn it on to give you live feedback, or you can deliver your whole presentation without distraction and get it afterwards. But I would suggest people try it. I think we should all be open to improving. I've been, running a presentation company for over 20 years and a speaker for 17 of them, and it still, made me aware of things that I'm doing wrong.
It's interesting. I'm delighted that you give it the thumbs up, because anything that can help us, of course, be better. Because so many people are having to deliver presentations, especially in a digital format. And in the world that we live in right now, where you're stuck in a room, whether it be your dining room, your study, or spare bedroom, you're talking to a lens on a camera, and you become fixated on that lens because somebody's told you keep eye contact with the lens. And you're so busy focusing on that, you kind of forget why you're there in the first place, and you forget to communicate. And this is a tool then that reminds you that it's in this very hard, very artificial, very sterile environment in which we're in from a presenter point of view. You need to up your game. But also, if you overdo it, and I think a lot of people do overdo it online because they've told they have to have energy and you have to be expressive when you are on camera. So you have to show off a little bit and you have to be a little bit bigger than you are in the real world. And then they might go a little overboard. Does it help people from hurting themselves that way?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it would help them that much in that regard. But what I will say is I would certainly err on making more of an effort. One of my biggest frustrations I've seen with people presenting online at the moment is that they're sitting down. Get off your bum. Stand up. You wouldn't sit to present to an audience if you were at a conference venue. Why are you sitting? Like, you've got to remind your body that you're doing something different. You got to tell your brain that I'm delivering a presentation. I'm trying to deliver a message to achieve a result. And, there's small little things that I think people should be mindful of. But certainly I would rather somebody gives more energy when presenting online than giving less energy, because you have to become a master at interrupting your audience's distraction. You've got to assume that you've gone from being a presentation to a podcast, and you've got to try to win them back constantly.
Rich Mulholland, best speaker in the business. He is the owner at Missing Link, and he develops talks. And if he says that this little coach, which is available on PowerPoint, and it's on the online version of PowerPoint, certainly it is worth checking out. I think I'm going to have something to play with this weekend.
The Money Show with Bruce Whitfield.
Email him on brucew@702.co.za.